welcome. You're watching India Today Explains. I'm Akshata Nandagopal. Over the next half hour, I'll break down for you the week's biggest stories. We'll tell you all about the big Bihar battle, a term you've heard of, I'm sure, EBC. What is the EBC vote all about in Bihar? Who comprises of the extremely backward classes? I'll explain all of that for you. We've also seen an unprecedented crackdown on Anil Ambani. Why is the Enforcement Directorate investigating him? Why have assets worth 7,500 crores been attached by the Enforcement Directorate? I'll break that down for you. Also on the show, it's winter aka smog season in Delhi. What are the #1 contributors to pollution in the national capital? Is it just stubble burning or are there other factors? I'll break that down for you. In international stories, the biggest headline, of course, is that New York has a new mayor, Zohran Mamdani. Who exactly is Mamdani? We break down for you his rise and why many also deem him rather controversial. And finally, Trump dropping the N-bomb on the world. Why are countries worried by Trump suggesting that America is going to start nuke testing again? I'll break that down for you. So lots lined up. Let's get started. This election season, there's been a lot of talk about the EBC vote in Bihar. Now, we've heard of BCs, OBCs in other states, but in Bihar, besides these categories, there's also EBCs, which is extremely backward classes. And so essentially, it's a subcategory under the broader OBC umbrella because these are castes judged to be more socially and educationally disadvantaged. Bihar is one of the few states with this classification. So let's tell you how this came into being first. The concept of EBC in Bihar was introduced in the 1970s by then Chief Minister Karpuri Thakur, who established the Mungeri Lal Commission in 1971. Karpuri Thakur, who was himself from an EBC community, announced a 26% reservation in government jobs for backward classes, which included a separate, smaller quota for EBCs. EBCs were formally recognized and integrated into Bihar's reservation policies through the Commission's recommendations. So who belongs to the EBC category? There are 112 castes and subcastes in Bihar that have been identified as historically disadvantaged. It accounts for about 36% of the population in the state. That's a big number. Telis or oil traders account for about 2% of EBCs. Malla, who are traditionally boatmen or fisher folk, account for 2.6%. Julaha, a subcaste of Muslims, is reportedly 3.5% of the EBCs. Currently, the quota for EBCs is at 18% after attempts to increase it were shot down. In 2023, the Bihar Reservation Amendment Bill was passed in which quota for EBCs was raised from 18%, the existing, to 25%. But this was struck down by the Patna High Court since overall the quota then was over the 50% limit. So what makes EBCs so important during an election? Because like I said, they make up 36% of the population. EBCs, therefore, are a major electoral bloc in Bihar. They're often considered swing voters. Unlike some castes which have strong historical allegiance to a particular party, EBC groups are more fragmented. Because the EBC category includes so many different castes, their voting behavior is also extremely diverse. The JDU under Nitish Kumar has historically done well in EBC-heavy regions, courtesy strategic social engineering and populist welfare. The RJD, led by Tejaswi Yadav now, also attempts to woo EBCs, but has a stronger base among Yadavs and Muslims. In many districts, especially those less dominated by Yadav and Muslim vote banks, it's EBCs who can determine which alliance wins. Both sides have wooed this group with specific mentions in their manifestos. The NDA manifesto pledges 10 lakh rupees assistance to members of select EBC occupational groups, the formation of a committee headed by a retired Supreme Court judge to study the socio-economic conditions of EBCs and overall empowerment of EBCs. The Mahagathbandhan manifesto has vowed to ensure an EBC Atrocities Prevention Act, much like the SC/ST Act, to address discrimination or violence against the group. They have also promised to raise reservations for EBCs in panchayats and municipal bodies from 20% to 30%. And so clearly, The extremely backward classes, EBCs, are kingmakers in Bihar politics because of their numerical strength and fragmented identity. Their allegiance is not fixed. They respond to issues of welfare, of caste recognition, leadership from their own communities, and who promises them more representation. 17,000 crore. That's the alleged loan fraud committed by Anil Ambani and his company, which the ED is questioning and looking into. Let's but begin by telling you all about Anil Ambani. Of course, we all know he's part of the Ambani family, brother of Mukesh Ambani. But in this explainer, you'll also need to know which companies were or are under him now. Anil Ambani is associated with the Reliance Group, the Reliance ADA Group, which he founded after he split from Mukesh Ambani in 2005. But many of his companies have faced financial difficulties. Some have undergone insolvency proceedings or also in some cases debt restructuring or significant downsizing. He owned Reliance Capital Limited till 2002, Reliance Infrastructure, which is still active. Then you had Reliance Power, which has high debt but is active. Then Reliance Communications, also called RCOM, which filed for bankruptcy in 2019. Reliance Home Finance, which has been taken over by lenders. And finally, Reliance Naval and Engineering, which is under insolvency. Anil Ambani claimed in 2020 in a UK court that his net worth was zero due to mounting debts and legal obligations. Many of the companies once under his control have been taken over by lenders or are in bankruptcy proceedings. But the current probe against him is over fraud allegations between 2017 to 2019. So according to ED, a preliminary investigation revealed that 3,000 crore rupees in loans from Yes Bank were disbursed to Reliance Anil Dhirubhai Ambani Group. Similarly, another fraud, but this time for a whopping 14,000 crore rupees, was allegedly committed by Reliance Communications. The ED says the fraud is essentially a quid pro quo arrangement, where Yes Bank promoters allegedly received money in their companies shortly before the loans were sanctioned. So Yes Bank's loan approvals are under the scanner. So here are the red flags found by ED. Backdated credit approval memorandums, no due diligence or any credit analysis for that matter. Loans were disbursed even before a sanction was actually given. Funds were routed through shell companies, and that's something ED is looking into, these companies. Misrepresentation of financials and evergreening of loans, which essentially means giving a loan to pay off another. Then there's another allegation, the 14,000 crore that I referred to earlier. This is linked to Anil Ambani's flagship telecom firm, Reliance Communications, RCOM, which has defaulted on over 14,000 crore rupees and has been officially classified as fraudulent by SBI. That's not all. RCOM also cheated Canara Bank of over 1,050 crore rupees, with the SBI preparing to file a formal complaint with the CBI over this. These classifications essentially follow RBI guidelines on fraud recognition, so it's paving the way for criminal prosecution. In another leg of the probe, you have Reliance Home Finance, which is under the scanner for a dramatic increase in corporate lending. From 3,742 crore rupees in 2018 to 8,670 crore in 2019, so over 5,000 crores in a year. The red flag here is alleged expedited and irregular loan approvals, besides common directors and addresses for many of the borrowers. Questions have been asked of how loans were given to companies with such weak financials. SEBI has submitted a report on this too to the Enforcement Directorate. Besides all of these companies being under the scanner, the ED is also probing undisclosed foreign bank accounts and offshore assets linked to Anil Ambani and his group entities. Now, these assets are believed to be layered and concealed using complex financial structures and nominee ownership patterns. So the probe is also going to be clearly a long winding one to get down to the root of the ownership. So far, about 18 of Anil Ambani's top executives are under the scanner. But one big arrest that's been linked to this case is that of Partha Sarthi Biswal, the managing director of an Odisha firm, in connection with a money laundering case against businessman Anil Ambani. Biswal allegedly ran a fake bank guarantee issuance racket for business groups. So his company is suspected of providing one such assurance worth 68 crores for a Reliance Group company. So with multiple FIRs, seizures, arrests and an inter-agency probe, the investigation into Anil Ambani's empire is widening each week. As the probe intensifies, the once high-flying business tycoon now faces a rapidly unraveling legal as well as financial crisis, one that could redefine India's corporate fraud enforcement landscape. Each winter, Delhi slips beneath a toxic haze, a crisis so predictable it's become part of the city's calendar. Skies turn grey, the air burns the throat, and the world's most polluted capital braces for another season of suffocation. Now, this has become a grim ritual of smog season in Delhi, and this year is no exception. In early November 2025, Delhi's air quality index surged beyond 500, categorized as severe. That's more than 10 times the World Health Organization's safe limit. But what are the biggest contributors? According to the 2024 Center for Science and Environment, vehicles remain the single biggest culprit behind Delhi's winter smog. The latest 2024 data shows that transport alone contributes 51.5% of the city's pollution load. That's a staggering figure despite years of tighter emission norms and cleaner fuel transitions. Residential emissions make up the second largest chunk, 13.2%, driven by household fuel use, biomass burning, and small-scale energy consumption that often escapes regulation. Beyond the city's borders, another factor ignites, literally. Each October and November, farmers in Punjab and Haryana clear fields by setting crop stubble ablaze. Though it's not the top source, stubble burning still contributes 8.2% of the capital's winter pollution as per the same CSE study. And then there's the construction boom, adding its own dust storm. Construction activity now accounts for 6.9% of Delhi's particulate matter, coating neighborhoods in a fine layer of debris that mixes seamlessly into the city's air. These are the city's invisible polluters, steady, silent, and largely unchecked. Now, the health consequences of pollution are staggering. A 2024 study in the Lancet Planetary Health estimated that air pollution causes around 12,000 premature deaths every year in Delhi. A 2023 report by the Institute for Health Metrics and Evaluation estimated that 15% of all deaths in Delhi were linked to air pollution. Doctors report spikes in asthma, bronchitis, and heart attacks every winter. Children and the elderly are the hardest hit. For many residents, air purifiers and masks have become as routine as umbrellas in the monsoon. Imagine that. Authorities have responded each year with emergency measures. So construction is halted, vehicle use is restricted, and temporarily schools are shut down, as are power plants. That's when you see the maximum restriction coming into effect. Yet all of these actions treat symptoms, not causes. Experts argue that meaningful progress requires cleaner public transport, stricter industrial enforcement, regional cooperation to curb stubble burning, and investment in renewable energy. Political divisions and economic pressures often, however, stall these long-term reforms. And Delhi's air crisis is not isolated. Look at the bigger picture here. Across North India, cities face the same suffocating pattern, proof that the problem is regional, not just urban. Delhi, however, is the symbol because this is the capital, a mega city where modern growth is colliding with environmental neglect. The haze lifts each spring. You have blue skies returning. For a few months, the city breathes again, but come autumn, come fall, the cycle restarts. A reminder that progress like clean air remains just out of reach. Zohran Mamdani has emerged as a landmark figure in American politics. Mamdani's recent victory in the New York City mayoral election signals much more than a single electoral win. As demographics shift and progressive voices push for change, Mamdani represents both a symbolic and substantive break from the past, challenging the stereotypes. But let's tell you all about Zohran Mamdani, particularly his Indian connection. Mamdani was born to Indian origin parents Meera Nair and Mahmood Mamdani in Kampala of Uganda. He moved to New York with his family at the age of 7 and was mostly raised in America. But his Indian heritage has figured in media coverage and his personal narrative too. Mamdani, for example, quoted India's first Prime Minister Jawaharlal Nehru in his victory speech and also celebrated with Bollywood music.
Standing before you, I think of the words of Jawaharlal Nehru. A moment comes but rarely in history when we step out from the old to the new, when an age ends and when the soul of the nation long suppressed finds utterance.
But why is his win so historic? Before contesting for the mayoral election in New York City, the 34-year-old used to actually compose and produce rap music. So he's grown from that to become New York City mayor.
Even your nyumba's not too far. You're meeting someone, bariwa. This trip is even cheaper than sambusa. He'll take you where you go and just accept the offer. Otherwise, get ready to tambura. Cause everybody knows he got the best taxi with the best backseat, with room for all your luggage and your own sufi. Well, it's the truth, why don't you sit and see?
He was elected to the New York State Assembly in 2020, identifies himself as a democratic socialist and campaigned on several factors: affordability, housing, transit and social justice issues. It resonated with the people of New York. So why does this win matter so much? Well, Zohran Mamdani is the first Muslim, first person of South Asian and Indian origin. Also, he's the youngest mayor of New York City in its history. His win also points to a generational and ideological shift in which working class voters, immigrant communities and younger demographics have played decisive roles. And then there's the M factor. Practicing Muslim in US politics is a factor that makes this win special. Mamdani's victory comes amid rising Islamophobia in America, and it shows how a candidate with Muslim identity combined with a strong grassroots platform can actually overcome entrenched bias and high-profile opposition. The M factor here doesn't just mean being Muslim. It means leveraging community identity, authenticity and progressive values developing in the United States. As far as India goes, Mamdani, as I said, has celebrated his heritage. But politically, he's also been openly critical of Prime Minister Modi and the BJP, accusing them of promoting intolerance and eroding India's pluralism. He even made a comment about Gujarat, saying that Gujarat has been wiped out of a certain community. And then politically, he's also fighting it out with Trump. It's sparked several controversies in America. Mamdani's campaign and win did not come without backlash. President Donald Trump supported Andrew Cuomo against Zohran Mamdani in a post on his Truth Social account. He publicly criticized Mamdani, warning that his leadership would be disastrous, as he put it, for New York City. Trump earlier also made a comment in an interview that he would cut federal funding to New York City if Mamdani wins the election. And in response, here's what Mamdani had said in his victory speech to Trump.
If anyone can show a nation betrayed by Donald Trump how to defeat him, it is the city that gave rise to him. And if there is any way to terrify a despot, it is by dismantling the very conditions that allowed him to accumulate power. This is not only how we stop Trump, it's how we stop the next one. So Donald Trump, since I know you're watching, I have 4 words for you. Turn the volume up.
But besides Trump, Mamdani was also the target of significant Islamophobic and nativist sentiment online and in public discourse. Zohran Mamdani's triumph is more than a single electoral milestone. It's a statement about representation, about shifting political dynamics and the possibilities for new leadership in diverse societies. While he now faces a very real challenge of governance, his victory sends across a clear message of progressive vision and grassroots support to reshape political landscapes. The United States has reignited one of history's most dangerous debates. President Donald Trump directed the US military to resume nuclear weapons testing for the first time in 33 years, moments before meeting Chinese President Xi Jinping. The order instantly raised questions. Why restart testing now? Why was it halted in the first place, and what could it really mean for the world? Let's go back in time. The nuclear era began in July 1945, when the United States detonated the world's first atomic bomb in Alamogordo of New Mexico. Just weeks later, Hiroshima and Nagasaki were devastated, ending World War II but ushering in a perilous new age. The Soviet Union joined the race in August 1949, shattering America's monopoly and setting off a global arms contest. Between 1945 and the signing of the Comprehensive Nuclear Test Ban Treaty, the CTBT, in 1996, the world witnessed over 2,000 nuclear tests, a grim record of technological one-upmanship. United States conducted 1,032 tests during that period. The Soviet Union, 715 tests. France conducted 210 tests. The UK and China both conducted 45 tests. After the CTBT, the treaty was introduced, only 10 more tests have been recorded. India, of course, is in that list. India and Pakistan each conducted 2 in 1998. North Korea carried out 6 between 2006 and 2017. The US last tested way back in 1992. The Soviet Union in 1990. France and China halted theirs in 1996. Russia, inheriting the Soviet arsenal, has not resumed testing, though it has experimented with nuclear-powered weapons and conducted military drills as well. Now, the global halt stemmed from fears of environmental destruction, of radiation exposure, and above all, human suffering. Above ground and underwater detonations left entire regions scarred. Kazakhstan, the Kazakh steppes, and Arctic tundra, the islands of the Pacific, they were all affected. Communities near test sites faced generational health crises, while radioactive fallout polluted ecosystems for decades. The Comprehensive Nuclear Test Ban Treaty, the CTBT as I referred to it earlier, was adopted in 1996, and it sought to close that chapter by prohibiting all nuclear explosions. America signed this treaty but never ratified it. Russia signed and ratified the treaty, though in 2023 President Vladimir Putin withdrew Moscow's ratification, aligning its stance with Washington's. Proponents believe the treaty reduced Cold War tensions by freezing the cycle of nuclear escalation. Resuming tests could serve two purposes: technical validation or geopolitical signaling, which is what we see a whole lot of today. Testing helps confirm whether new warhead designs function properly or whether older stockpiles remain reliable. But a test can also very much be a statement of power, a message to rivals, in the case of America, to rivals like Russia and China, that the United States intends to reassert dominance. Now, reports in 2020 suggested the Trump administration had already debated this move. Analysts say any live detonation now could provoke an immediate response. Putin has warned that Russia would follow suit, risking a return to Cold War-style brinkmanship. Though far fewer than during the Cold War peak of 70,000 warheads, that was in 1986. Right now, there's still around 12,000 nuclear weapons, mostly held by the United States and Russia, which is what makes current developments extremely dangerous. Approximate current stockpiles for Russia is at 5,500. For America, it's at 5,200. China has 600, France at 290, UK at 225. India is right after that at 180, Pakistan at 170. Then you have Israel and North Korea. Israel is at 90 and North Korea at 50. Despite reductions, the three biggest powers, US, Russia and China, are now modernizing their arsenal, developing faster, more precise, more survivable nuclear weapons. Trump's order now marks a historic reversal of nuclear restraint, raising fears of a new arms race. The test ban that once symbolized collective caution may be fading. The world could once again find itself watching out for the next mushroom cloud. Let's hope not.